10 o'clock. Welcome to the Asian Network phone-in. Today we're asking, should the EDL be allowed to march in Muslim areas? Tommy Robinson's group has been banned from entering the heart of Tower Hamlets when they march on Saturday. The police say it's to prevent disorder. The EDL says its right to protest is being denied. What do you think? Call us 08459 440 445, text 81869 or email nahal@bbc.co.uk. All that after the news with Priyanka Deladia.
BBC Asian Network News.
Scotland Yard has imposed conditions on a planned English Defence League march in East London, which is set to be held this weekend. The Respect MP George Galloway has asked the Home Secretary for the march to be banned altogether. Asian Network's Adam Pasternicki has more.
Scotland Yard says the EDL will be prevented from entering the heart of Tower Hamlets and marching past the East London Mosque in Whitechapel in order to prevent what it calls serious disorder, damage, disruption and intimidation. The force says it has also imposed conditions on Unite Against Fascism, which is planning to hold a protest march. The Home Office says it can only ban a march if a formal application is made by police.
And that's what Naresh Puri is discussing on the phone-in today. In America, a man convicted of holding 3 women captive in his home in Ohio for almost a decade has reportedly taken his own life in prison. Ariel Castro was caught earlier this year after one of the women escaped. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years. A report has found that drugs, weapons and illegal immigrants could be entering the UK because of pressure on border staff to reduce queues at passport control. The National Audit Office says the Border Force has had to scale back checks on goods and people entering the country in order to focus on government targets. The Immigration Minister Mark Harper's admitted there's room for improvement.
We also need to make sure we're doing those secondary checks, the really important ones on Class A drugs and firearms. We're meeting or exceeding our targets. I think some of the others, like tobacco and things, are areas where we're doing less well. They are right when they say we need to get that balance right.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned America and its allies against taking one-sided action in Syria. Meanwhile, America's top diplomat John Kerry has put forward the case for military action in Syria. The conditions include a time limit of 60 days for any operation and a ban on the use of ground troops. US politicians will vote on the plan next week. In entertainment news, British Asian film Jadoo had its premiere in Leicester last night ahead of its nationwide release on Friday. The movie, which was filmed entirely in the city using locals as extras, tells the story of 2 brothers, both chefs, who fall out and set up rival restaurants on Belgrave Road. In sport, Andy Murray is through to the quarterfinals of the US Open tennis in New York, where he'll face Switzerland's Stanislaw Wawrinka. And England beat Ireland by 6 wickets in their one-day international in Dublin. Captain Owen Morgan and Ravi Bopara both scored centuries for England, and Morgan was thrilled for his teammate.
Amazing, and no better of a guy to share with than Ravi Bopara. He's a pleasure to sit at the non-striker's end and watch. Really easy on the eye and strikes it really well.
And Zimbabwe are batting on day 2 of the first test against Pakistan in Harare. Zimbabwe were currently 25 without loss. And that's all your news and sports for now. Your next update is in an hour.
It's your voice. Use it. BBC Asian Network.
Good morning. Should the EDL be allowed to march in Muslim areas? We're asking this because the English Defence League wants to march into Tower Hamlets this Saturday in a route that includes passing by the East London Mosque. The police say the group can march, but they're not allowed through mainly Muslim areas and specifically banned from the route they want. What do you think about this? The EDL say they have a right to assemble wherever they want. In a moment, we'll be speaking to their leader, Tommy Robinson. He says that if Muslim groups can protest when soldiers march through a town, why can't the EDL march past a mosque? MPs have called for any demonstration to be banned on the grounds that it will whip up racial tension. Do you agree? Do you think that the EDL should be able to march where they want? Do you think they have a right to bring their views to the heart of London's Muslim community? Or do you think that allowing a march like this would be dangerous and raise the risk of violence. Very good morning to you. This is Naresh Puri on the BBC Asia Network. It is 8 minutes past 10. Should the EDL be allowed to march in Muslim areas? Respect Party founder George Galloway has called for an EDL march through East London to be banned. He claims the EDL wants to whip up racial tensions against Muslims. Police have banned the protesters from entering the heart of Tower Hamlets, where many Asians live. The EDL say they should have the right to march through the area. They are angry. Should the EDL be stopped from entering Muslim areas, or are we taking away their right to protest? That is what I'm asking you this morning. My first guest is Tommy Robinson from the EDL. Tommy, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tommy, can I just firstly ask you, just tell me about your planned march this weekend.
Well, obviously we were wanting to go into Tower Hamlets. This is where I draw the first problem. Muslim areas. What's a Muslim area? So, see, to me, there is no Muslim area. Tower Hamlets is 35% Muslim, 65% non-Muslim. But it's still, even if it was 90% Muslim, it's not a Muslim area.
Tommy, let me correct myself. Let's say an area with a large Muslim population. Let's move on to the next point then. Just tell me about your planned march.
Well, our planned march was to march over Tower Bridge, to come onto Whitechapel Road and to stop at Alder Street. Is it Adler Street? Which is not going up to the East London Mosque, but it's up the road from the East London Mosque. Now, our point is, there has to be an even playing field. Every community has to be treated the same. Now, if Anjem Choudhury and his group can protest outside Westminster Cathedral whilst Christians are inside, if people can occupy tents for weeks and weeks outside St Paul's and they can desecrate up against it, if we wish to protest against the East London Mosque, then why can't we? What is the reason why this is protected and other religions and other faiths and other things aren't? Why did they not use these powers that they're using against us? When Muslims wanted to protest against our armed forces, why did they not put conditions and make them protest half a mile down the road?
So, Tommy, you're being discriminated against. The EDL is now being discriminated against. That's what you're saying to me.
That is what I'm saying. And it's not just the EDL that are being discriminated against. If you look across the country, a few weeks ago, we had in Bradford a Sikh temple next door. They have just granted planning for a halal factory. Now, would they ever grant planning for a pig farm next door to a mosque? This is the two-tier thing where it seems everything...
Tommy, let me just put this to you. This is quite an important question. You are a non-violent organisation, am I right?
Yes, you are right.
Has there ever been any violence at an EDL protest?
Of course it has, yeah.
Are you going to say to me, Tommy, it's the other side that have actually attacked your people?
I'm not going to lie to you and say that there hasn't not been English Defence League supporters at certain times on the streets that have acted violently. It'd be a lie. But what it is, there's a lot of anger and frustration, and what this decision does, is adds to it and fuels it. Now, in a democracy, as an organisation, I have to please all of our members. Now, our members and our supporters are very angry at what's going on in Tower Hamlets. They're angry about the Mayor, Luther Rahman, about the extremism, about the grooming. They're angry about all these issues. They're angry about homophobic, anti-Semitic speakers that are allowed to go to the East London Mosque. Now, if we want to go in there and protest, we contact the police and we ask them to facilitate it. Now, what the police are doing here is not facilitating it. So what will our members and our supporters want to do? They'll still want to protest in Tower Hamlets.
Tommy, can I put this to you? What would you do if you were allowed to go outside the big East London Mosque?
We didn't ask. This is the thing. We didn't ask.
You want to go past? You want to go past it?
No, we didn't want to go past. No, we want to go 500 metres up the road from it.
Okay.
We understand going outside, anything like that, they'd be worried about the mosque. So we don't even want to go as far as that.
And you are a non-violent organisation, aren't you, Tommy? That's what you're saying to me.
What I'm saying to you is I was doing a charity walk myself, okay, not the English Defence League. I was doing a charity walk to raise money for a young dying girl. On that charity walk, it took me from Woolwich to Westminster. Now, that had to take me on a direct route through the borough of Tower Hamlets.
So that had to take you.
No, this was a charity walk.
Okay.
This was a charity walk. Why should I divert? It's a simple route. I'm on my own. I'm not causing a threat to anybody. I'm on my own doing a charity walk.
You're a controversial figure, though, Tommy.
Yeah, but so I then can't walk through certain streets.
No, but I'm just saying you are a controversial figure, a well-known figure for having quite strong views.
Yes, anyone so's Anjem Choudhury, so's all these different Muslim leaders, and they're not allowed.
And have Anjem Choudhury's protesters never been charged with any offences at all, Tommy?
They're not given perimeter areas. At current, I'm on bail. Right now, today, I cannot walk into the borough of Tower Hamlets. Now, why is that? Why? Why not? Why can't I?
Tommy, can I just ask you, what sort of chance, Tommy, let me put this to you, what sort of chance, if you were allowed, as you said, 500 yards away from the big East London Mosque, can I kindly ask you, what sort of chance would your protesters and yourself, what would you come out with?
We'd come out with speeches, and in our speeches we would highlight all the things that are going on within that borough with regards to funding being siphoned away from moderate Islamic groups to extremist madrasas. We'd show that £1 billion budget is in the hands of an extremist who was kicked out of the Labour Party because of his ties to extremism. I would talk about his spiritual advisor and all the things in the way he has described non-Muslims.
And what about Muslims? And what about Muslims themselves, Tommy? What would you say?
I'd say to Muslims what I always say to Muslims. I don't hate individual Muslims. But whether they like it or not, I'm not here to tiptoe around. I'm here to put it as it is. I don't bow and pander to political correctness.
Tell me now, Tommy, what would you say then about Muslims? 500 yards away from...
I'd say to Muslims, if I want to talk about the East London Mosque, I'd say this is a mosque that promotes hatred and it promotes extremism.
Tommy, let me stop you there for a second, my friend, because you would probably have about 500, 600, 1,000 counter-demonstrators. You are a non-violent man, Tommy Robinson. You can imagine how you could provoke individuals and there'll be violence. Do you really want to see, Tommy, do you want to see little kids witnessing grown men, white and Asian, white and Muslim, whatever, beating the hell out of each other, Tommy?
When has that ever happened at a demonstration? There'll be 2,000 police officers. What you're saying is that what we should do is we should surrender our democratic rights due to the threats of mob rule and violence. Because what we have to say, which is the truth, what we have to say, there will be a violent reaction, because that's what you get when you criticise Islam. You get a very violent reaction.
Okay.
Because of that, we're now surrendering. And our point is, if they're making this decision now in 2013, where they are creating a perimeter around an entire borough of London and saying that anyone who criticises Islam is not allowed in there to protest, then in 10 years' time, what will it be then? You're not allowed in Birmingham, you're not allowed in Luton, you're not allowed in Bradford.
Tommy, I'll stop you there for a moment. Thank you for that. Let me just introduce Imam Abdullah Hassan from the East London Mosque. A very good morning to you. You are a guest. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you for having me.
Okay.
Just a clarification, I'm not the Imam of East London Mosque.
Okay. You are an Imam, though. Okay.
I am an Imam. I occasionally teach at East London Mosque, yeah.
Fantastic. Abdullah, let me put this question to you. Tommy has the right, his people have the right to protest, to walk 500 yards away from your mosque. He has the right. There is democracy in this country. What are you saying to Tommy Robinson?
I mean, first and foremost, I think I applaud the police and the authorities for actually allowing common sense and the law to prevail and banning the EDL from entering to hamlets, in particular those mentioned areas. I think anyone has in a democratic society to protest and view their political views in the public. But unfortunately, the EDL is a notorious known group that incites racial tension and attention and violence against the Muslim community. In fact, I believe, if I can recall correctly, last time when the EDL wanted to march into Hamlets, in fact, the leader came into Hamlets and he mentioned certain statements which only can be interpreted as, physically enticing the EDL members to physically come and attack the Muslim community.
But Tommy Robinson has said that he is against violence and that, unfortunately, there will be small elements within any community who will basically resort to violence. But he is against that.
That is an absurd comment, a contradiction. I mean, if anyone reads his tweets and Facebook messages and some of the interviews that he's made...
Abdullah, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Instead of me just cussing in, let me introduce you. Tommy, say a very good morning to Abdullah. Abdullah, say a very good morning to my friend Tommy Robinson, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Now, you know what you just said, that the English Defence League is notoriously hate and violence. I'm sorry, but Islam is notoriously violence. Islam is notoriously the ones that are blowing things up. It's continuous cry of Allah Akbar after bombs and explosions and people's heads being cut off is notorious to Islam. What's notorious to the English Defence League is demonstrations and protests that sometimes get spilled over into a slight aggression, which is completely in a different league to when we're talking about EB's murder, 7/7, all these different things that are associated with Islam. Now, you're saying about hate.
As a Muslim and an Imam, Islam teaches me and Islam advocates peace. Now, if certain individuals from a certain group or certain faith or even country, they advocate violence or hatred, then we completely disown ourselves from that. And right-minded people, common sense people need to, stay away from that. But unfortunately, the members of the EDL, as I said, notorious. They've been, especially after the recent case against the Woolwich attack. After the aftermath, many mosques within the UK, in London particularly, has been attacked. Mosques have been arson attacked. Many mosques in Luton, Milton Keynes.
Let Tommy answer. Sorry, Abdullah. I'll tell you what. You're Tommy
has been attacked.
Abdullah, please. When I say, please come back, Tommy.
Not one English Defence League supporter has been convicted of attacking any of your mosques. Not one. Not one. You had a mosque in Muswell Hill that was an insurance job because you had asbestos in the roof.
No, hold on, Tommy. Let me say, the thing is with me is I always deal with fact in this, and if I don't know something or somebody throws something, Tommy, let's move away from that allegation.
Okay, let's move away to the facts. The facts are not one English Defence League supporter has ever been convicted of attacking a mosque. Let's move down to the facts that a Ukrainian was who attacked your mosque. Who had nothing
that
to
is
do
the
with
allegation against the individual. He's still facing a court case.
That's the allegation. Not one member of the English Defence League has ever been arrested or convicted for attacking your mosque.
The fact is, there is...
That's the fact.
The fact is, the EDL members, even yourself, Tommy, have been inciting racial tension within the various communities in London and outside London. Now, to come and march in a Muslim area...
Guys, one at a time.
Surah 95 killed a disbeliever.
May I finish my point?
Yeah, you're an imam, so you can explain it afterwards.
May I finish my point?
Yeah, go on, finish your point.
Okay. As I said, inciting racial tension within any community should be banned from any individual and any group. And as I said, I applaud the police and the authorities for not allowing the EDL and its members to march within Tower Hamlets.
Okay.
You cannot envisage a peaceful demonstration when you will have, as you mentioned, over 500 to 1,000 UAF supporters united against fascism will be marching, and also people from the EDL marching. You can't
expect peace, is what Abdullah is saying. Abdullah, stay with me for a second. Stay with me.
People to remain peaceful,
and you don't want to see violence, which is obviously very important to the community.
Would the local community take the same stance when Anjem Chowdhury and his group are planning, or Hizb Ut-Tahrir, for example, who have many conferences in East London? Would the community take the same stance? Because you see these conditions. What we're on about is democratic rights, democracy, whether we have the right to go into Tower Hamlets. Now, this is where hypocrisy comes in.
Let Tommy finish his point.
This is where hypocrisy comes in, because you have many Islamist, extremist organisations operating within Tower Hamlets, and you are silent. Your politicians, such as George Galloway, are silent. You're all very silent.
Abdullah, answer that allegation.
As I said, we've not been silent. I myself and many other imams...
Tommy, let him finish.
I myself, many other imams, many mosque organisations within the UK, the MCB and others who represent the Muslim community have been very, very vocal against extremism, against violence from wherever they advocate violence.
Okay, Abdullah, Tommy, stay with me. Abdullah and Tommy, stay with me. Abdullah and Tommy, stay with me. Let me cross to Rab, who's been very, very patient in Birmingham. Rab, what do you make of this planned demonstration through the streets of Tower Hamlets this weekend?
Good morning to everybody that's actually there and listening. I don't think personally that, this demonstration should be allowed, nor should any other demonstration be allowed by the EDL. I personally think the EDL should be actually banned because a lot of the stuff that they come out with is, first of all, it's not actually true. I've heard actually Tommy Robinson, his actual name isn't true to start with, so that will tell you how much he speaks the truth. How much a lot of the stuff that he's said in the past, he's very, very good with his mouth. He's very fast with his mouth. And because of that, a lot of the, people that are part of his organization who haven't got a clue and don't represent the wider non-Asian Muslim community, just follow. If you was to individually stop them people and say, okay, you're against Muslims, can you explain to me why? 90% of them wouldn't have a clue. They're just following because they think that it makes them hard, it makes them, I think, look good. They're trying to say that we're white and we're British. What they don't understand is we're probably white. I'm probably more white and British than they are, and I'm not even white. I've lived in this country. I've been born in this country, and I feel that this is my country. But people like Tommy Robinson and his so-called organisation actually pushing people away by the wrong means. I do agree, believe it or not, even though I don't like the EDL, and I definitely don't like, Tommy Robinson, but I do agree with some of the points they make, because some of the things I'm suffering in this country, like, for example, the lack of, the work available, you go to your doctors, you can't get an appointment, but that's got nothing to do with the people that have been here for years. It's the influx of all the Europeans that are coming over here that's making it difficult and making things harder. Now, the non-Asian person seems to think, because he's been told that everything's been taken over by these people, all this funding's going to there, they need to look. We're probably 5% of the cost, as we're 95% of the cost is from the influx of all the Europeans that come into this country.
Let me just move, Rab, let's move back to the core issue. I totally understand your point, and I respect what you're saying as well, but let me go back to the core issue, which is, should the EDL be allowed to march through Tower Hamlets?
The EDL should not be allowed to march full stop.
Tommy is saying you are taking away his democratic right. He has the right to do that.
You're inciting hatred, you lose all your democratic rights. Your democratic right means you have to hold a protest that's not inciting hatred, it's not inciting violence. I've been to some of these protests, I've seen some of these protests, and I'm disgusted by the way when I see, because I work in the community,
okay,
and most of my the people that I work with are non-Asian, and I would say nearly everybody that I've ever come across has been very nice. I've never seen an issue with them of any. It's only these handful of people, and
right.
There's also a handful of people in our community
who are causing problems. Rab, let me stop you there. Let me just read a few text and emails. This is Anonymous, who says, Naresh, why don't the BJP Indian Party march through Amritsar, Southall and Birmingham? Fanaz Khan says the EDL shouldn't be allowed to march anywhere. Why should taxpayers foot the bill to police their protests? Mr. Kohli says allow them to march accompanied by a Desi wedding band and Bhangra band. Fanaz says taxpayers shouldn't have to fund thugs, full stop. That money could be put to better use. Deepak Sora says, why shouldn't the EDL be allowed to protest where they want? Didn't Muslims protest against the soldiers in Wootton Bassett? Rab, answer that one.
It's going to come to that. Also...
No, Rab, please answer that one. So Deepak Sora said, why shouldn't the EDL be allowed to protest where they want? Didn't Muslims protest against the soldiers in Wootton Bassett?
I personally think, and I was actually disgusted when, the guy who's supposed to be, not supposed to be, who thinks that he's representing us Muslims, Mr. Anjem Chowdhury, and he's also an idiot as well. He shouldn't have been allowed, and his stupid followers shouldn't have been allowed to protest against the people that have died. Dead people have to be respected regardless who they are, right? Majority of Muslims, and I am talking for the majority of Muslims, were disgusted when people like that who go out and try to represent us Muslims,
you condemn them.
Stupid things. I've actually confronted Anjem Chowdhury on this show as well.
Right.
And I've said to him things that, you do not represent us.
Right.
Don't go out and say that you're a Muslim. Go out and say, my name's Anjem Chowdhury, and I'm an idiot, and I'm saying this, and I'm saying that.
But do not say that you're a Muslim and that you follow Islam, is what you're saying. Rab, stay with me. I've got Tommy and Imam Abdullah Hassan as well. Guys, at home, at work, at the office, where are you? Tommy Robinson is there on the phone lines. He's not going to stay with us for the next half an hour or so. If you want to put your views across to Tommy Robinson, call now 08459 440 445, text H1869 or email nahal@bbc.co.uk. He is planning, together with his supporters, a march through the streets of Tower Hamlets. He is saying he is fed up with the Muslim population. What do you say to Tommy Robinson? 08459 440 445, text 81869. Tommy, you've been very patient. Please come back in.
Well, basically, right, that Muslim lad there saying he's fed up of Anjem Chowdhury. They were planning a march in Wootton Bassett. They attacked our troops in Luton. They attacked them in Barking and Dagenham. On Remembrance Sunday, on 11/11, they disrupted the 2-minute silence while setting fire to poppies. Where were the Muslims to protest against them? We all knew they were doing it. They know they're doing it. On September 11th, they disrupted the silence outside the American embassy. What I'm saying is, no conditions are put on them. They're not told you can't protest outside the American embassy because it's going to be disrespectful and you're going to upset the whole of America and every American citizen. They're allowed to do it. That's our point, yeah? If you're going to ban us, okay, if you're going to say due to these grounds you can't march through there, then you have to do that to the Muslim community. But you don't. But they don't. That's where it comes in unfair. And when he's talking about, in his view, the English Defence League should be banned and prescribed and not allowed to protest at all because in his view, we incite hatred. Well, as a British person's point of view, when I hear someone quote a reference from the Quran and behead a soldier, is it not my right to say that I want that Quran banned? Is it not our view to say that that book is what created that murder? That book has created 270 million murders.
Hold on. Can I say one thing? That you all know, Tommy Robinson, that the vast majority of the Muslim population are law-abiding individuals, just like the majority of white population as well. But you cannot say that a religious book is inciting individuals, etc. But your point earlier, Tommy, was this. And Abdullah, I want you to ask this. Tommy is simply saying, you're angry when it comes to so-called radical elements going out there and, shouting abuse at soldiers, at British soldiers. But why are you not going out on the streets and condemning these individuals, Abdullah? That is what Tommy Robinson is saying to you.
I mean, as the previous caller mentioned that, any group that incites racial tension from the Muslim community or the non-Muslim community should be banned from marching in any community. And if Anjem Choudary and the Motley Crew, if they are, proven to create racial tension, then we need to, ask the authorities to deal with them appropriately within the law, like they have dealt with the EDL march on Saturday. So, Tommy Robinson, he can't hide behind democracy when he feels like it. He says, it's a democratic country and I'm allowed to march and it's freedom of speech and so on and so forth. But you can't use that to incite racial tension.
Okay.
And as I said, 2 years ago, 2011, he came in Tower Hamlets himself, and he makes statements which only could be interpreted as, inciting racial tension, within the community. So how can we allow a group who is proven, previously to be known to create and incite racial tension? And I applaud the police again for them, banning the EDO to march in Tower Hamlets.
Okay, right. Stay with me. Okay, let's go to Sanjay, who's been very, very patient. How are you?
All right, Naresh, yeah.
You tell me. Tommy Robinson says, listen, do not take away my democratic right to protest.
Yeah.
And people like Abdullah and Rab are simply saying, listen, there's going to be mayhem there's going to be chaos if they go through the streets of Tower Hamlets. What do you think?
Well, the EDL should be able to protest wherever they want in the UK. Why are Muslims even trying to attack what they are doing? I mean, if they are really good Muslims, why are they not just standing back and letting them do it in peace? The way everyone don't bother everyone else in this country. All other religions don't bother anyone else. Have you just noticed it comes down to Islam? Yes, so I'm saying that
I've heard about radical Hindus in India who cause absolute chaos.
I'll give you the example of that one. This is England we're talking about. We're not talking about India right now. And besides, Muslims have caused so much problems in India. It's unbelievable. But
hold on, I don't know hold on. Let's just move away. I will sort of ask you a few more details about that. You're making very sort of wide statements there. What I want you to do is deal with small points, one by one, and then I can argue with you as well. So please tell me. Go ahead, Sanjay. Should they be banned or not?
No, they should not, because this is England, it's a Christian country, and the thing is, this country allows all other faiths to get along peacefully without bothering anyone else. I mean, I don't know why it affects the Muslims so much, because their plan is to take over the UK. Everyone knows that. EDL are doing good because I guarantee you something.
A population of a few million are trying to take over the UK. Who told you that?
I mean, they're doing it slowly, but I guarantee you one thing. 20 years from now...
God, you must have read an article about that. Can you share that article with me?
What's that about?
The Muslims are trying to take over the UK. I've never come across that one.
Well, I'll just tell you some basic common sense.
Please.
I mean, they're having so many kids in the UK.
I didn't know that. Is there a population census which says they're having more kids than Hindus and Sikhs?
Is it all right if I finish? I mean, you asked me.
But please, Sanjay, you know what? You know, I respect you. You're an articulate individual. But what I want is that, you know, general sort of assertions they're having more kids than us.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you another thing. Like, if a Muslim guy goes with a non-Islamic girl and he tries to convert her, see, there's always if you use your basic common sense, Islam is actually expanding in the UK. Anyone with a brain cell would know this. This is what Tommy Robinson is trying to put across. What he's trying to say, he doesn't want this country from becoming an Islamic state. I mean, 20 years from now, everyone who's hating him now, it will be too late, because everyone in 20 years will be saying, oh, we should have listened to him, he was right.
So you are an EDL supporter, Sanjay?
I'm an EDL supporter, but one thing I don't like about the EDL, I'm going to just say this right now, there must be white people in the group, in the organisation, who are racist. What I want to know from Tommy is, how does he control that bit?
Tommy?
Yeah, mate, if anyone picks up, go on YouTube now, put in RVF EDL, you'll see groups like the Racial Volunteer Force, like the real far right, they hate me. Right? I have one of my. People always bring it back to my criminal record. One of my convictions was for calling these people out in my speech, calling out their names, telling them to show themselves because they're not welcome in our crowd. Then when I got off the stage, I admit it comes to violence. And one of my convictions was for knocking one of them out. So when people say, I have confronted them in every way you can confront them.
These are racist, Tommy, yeah? These are racist.
Yeah. These are racist. From burning swastikas, I've set because in the early days, they tried to attach themselves and align themselves to our organisation. Now, we had murders. In the first 2 years, we had murders. Like, basically, at demonstrations, we were fighting amongst them. So when people are saying there's trouble in the EDL crowd, that's us kicking them out.
Yeah.
That's us. And we're now 4 years on. They know. You just have to go on any of their websites, any of their things. Just watch that video I said, RVF EDL.
Tommy, you know what? You know, this doesn't sound really bizarre, and Sanjay as well, but, you know, normal folk out there, just really normal individuals who think, hold on, being a racist, what's the difference between being a racist and hating Islam?
Is it all right if I say something about that, please?
Please.
Right? Yeah, hear what it is. When people call Tommy Robinson a racist, I just start scratching my head and say, what is wrong with people? Racism is hating colour of skin. I mean, saying you're anti-Islam isn't racism, it's common sense.
But you hate people who belong to it, Sanjay.
Yeah.
You hate, let me put this to you, do you hate people of a certain faith?
No, and I don't hate all Muslims. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's difficult because the religion teaches something abnormal.
Oh, so you don't hate individuals, but you hate the religion because you feel it's doing wrong?
Exactly. I mean, if I can speak to a Muslim and don't mention religion with them, and I'll get along on a house on fire. But the instant religion gets taught, because they're just taught one thing, hate other religions, there's the only one, and that's it. And
I never knew that, Sanjay. I never knew that one. So, where did you learn that fact
Pick
from?
up the Quran then, bruv.
Okay.
Just pick up the Quran and read it.
I mean, I was a kid one day at school, yeah, and there was a big car which come up with six people that come out of it, older, and they went up to all little kids, white kids, all sorts, and they were trying to convert into Islam. You know what? I kind of felt sick back then, but I didn't know what to think. I mean, over the years, I've been watching it. It's not the fact that I'm just listening to somebody. It's basic common sense.
Sanjay, stay with me. Tommy, stay with me. I've got Abdullah there as well. Let's cross to Anita, who's been very, very patient. Anita, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Anita, you heard what Sanjay said, you heard what Tommy said, okay, but let's get back to the core issue. The EDL going through the streets of Tower Hamlet, right or wrong?
I've got mixed opinions on it, really. I would say it was wrong, only because I've actually drove through an EDL riot before, protest before, on my own, and it was the scariest thing I've ever been through.
Anita, you're obviously Asian, okay?
Yeah.
Are you... Okay, so let's say you're Asian, you're visibly Asian, obviously, and that is why you were scared, because you went through, they could see the colour of your skin, yeah?
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, not a lot of people... Okay, EDL might be able to tell who's Muslim, who's Hindu, who's Sikh, but a lot of the other communities, like other white people, they can't tell sometimes, and they just mix us all into one. And like on Facebook, for example, after EDL protests, we have had a lot more comments, visible comments. Before, it didn't used to be like that, and now you just get comments randomly thinking it's okay to.
It's a difficult situation, and, you know, I know Tommy's still listening to this as well. When I was growing up in London in the 70s, I used to take abuse left, right and centre.
Oh, so did I, even in the 90s,
and,
yeah.
Anita, it was one of those things that I hope and pray that my children do not have to go through that. My son once experienced it when he was a kid, when he was playing football, when somebody abused a child of mixed heritage. He was white and Sikh. But, you know, I hope and pray that, you know, our children, we as a family, my family, have lived here for 50 years. We're as British as they come. We're as English as they come. But the thing is, Tommy, you can't see the difference between anybody. As far as some people will say with the EDL that, hold on, he's Asian, is he Muslim, Sikh or Hindu? How do you differentiate? How do you...
That's ridiculous. And if you're going back even to what Sanjay was saying when you said, is there statistics and demographics? What he's saying is actual factual. Muslim male in this country has 5.6 children on average. A non-Muslim has 1.3. Now, you project that along with immigration, 30 to 40 years, Muslims are the majority. It's every 10 years, since the 60s, their community, every 10 years it doubles from 180,000 to 360,000, then to 700,000, then to 1.4 million, then to 2.8 million. Next will be 6 million, then it'll be 12 million.
And what are you afraid of, ultimately? What are you afraid of, Tommy?
This would not be a problem if they were integrating and assimilating, and certain sects of Islam are no problem at all. The Ahmadiyya sect would not cause a whisper in this country, not a single whisper.
So you're for them? So do you?
I'm completely for them, yeah. And completely for them. They're persecuted, and then you look at then the more.
Tommy, let me stop you there. Tommy, let me just stop you there for a second. People from the Ahmadiyya community, you heard what Tommy said, that, you know, he appreciates individuals like you. Call me, 08459 440 445, text 81869. We've got a few callers, we've got a lot of texts and emails. I want to hear from people. You've got Tommy Robinson here, EDL. His people are planning to march through the streets of Tower Hamlets. He says, I have the democratic right. If I want to be 500 yards away from the East London Mosque, why shouldn't I? This is Britain. It's a democracy. 08459 440 445, text 81869. Can I bring in Shakira from Essex? Shakira, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Can I firstly ask you your opinion about this planned march?
Yeah, I mean, you know, peaceful marches are absolutely fine. But considering that this is the EDL and Tommy Robinson, it's not going to be like that, is it? And also, you know, what are they trying to achieve? With all the other demonstrations they've had, have they moved anything forward? Where have they got to?
Interesting.
What's the protocol?
Shakira, can I do one thing? Can I introduce you to Tommy? And I'd like the two of you. You're both articulate individuals. Shakira, you just said good morning to Tommy. Chat to you. You guys chat.
Good morning, Tommy.
Shakira. How you doing?
Morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm sweating my tits off in Luton Town Centre.
Oh, Tommy, you said the wrong word. I do apologise. Tommy did say the wrong word. He knows this is daytime radio.
Political correctness, sorry.
Sorry, Tommy, sorry.
Yeah,
but please, Shakira.
It's normal for him, it's all right.
Well, Shakira, what you're saying is, you see, in democracy, when you're angry and frustrated, as a lot of individuals in this country are, what we see happening to our country, what you do is you try and channel that anger and frustration through the democratic process, which is freedom of assembly. And you protest. You don't strap a bomb to yourself and blow something up because you're angry at something.
No, you don't. But you're absolutely right. You don't strap a bomb to yourself. But what you've just said, that you should ban the Quran. What you've just said about
sorry, Tommy, just one second. Let Shakira make a point.
Look, Tommy, you've said all, and what you're saying is fine. You're just saying it in a different way. So I've heard it all. What I'm trying to say to you is what you've just said, that Islam is a bad religion. It's not right. You need to. The minute people will start listening to you is when you stop saying that. Because Islam do not hate other non-Muslims, okay? That's not what our religion's about. And about the Quran and you saying, you know, this quote and that quote, behead non-Muslims. I've not read that quote. Where is it? If you want to take out the Quran, take it out the Quran. I don't care. It doesn't affect me because I don't believe in quotes like that. And the other thing about, you know, you banning this book, if you want to ban the Quran, then I think you should ban all religious books because, you know, because what's going to happen? What's happening right now is you've got people like you who are racist. Where does that come from? It comes from your beliefs. It comes from your religion, right? Is that right or not?
Tommy? Well, Shakira, you said that I want to ban the Quran. What I was actually doing was drawing an analogy to what the man said in Birmingham. I said...
Well, we don't believe in him. Who is that man in Birmingham? I don't know him.
Excuse me, listen, let me talk. The man that was on the radio, like 20 minutes ago, who was from Birmingham, and what he said was that because the English Defence League caused trouble on the streets, they should be banned. Now, I was drawing an analogy, and I was stating a fact that a quote in the Quran, which was quoted from Lee Rigby's killer, should I then say we should...
Alleged. Let's move away from Lee Rigby, because the thing is there's a current trial going on, please.
Okay, so what I was doing was drawing an analogy. I said, if Muslims want to ban and prescribe us, do they not see how then British people could be saying, well, let's ban and prescribe the Quran? If that's what the analogy they're drawing. And when
that's not the analogy, no. That's not the right analogy to use.
Sorry, Shakira, let Tommy finish.
What you just said is, if there's certain quotes in the Quran, such as Surah 9:5, which says, kill the disbelievers wherever you find them, lay in wait ready to ambush them, such as 5:33, which says we must crucify anyone who causes mischief within the land.
Abdullah, Tommy, let me stop you there for a second. No, hold on, Tommy. No, I'll tell you what, Tommy, if I was a scholar, if I was an Islamic scholar, okay, then I could reply to that. I'm not an Islamic scholar, but I do insist that Abdullah comes back and he engages with you together with Shakira as well. Abdullah.
Thank you. Can I make a point, please?
Please.
The quotes Colonel mentioned as quoted, it's out of context. The Quran does not say this. And the point about, banning the Quran...
No, Abdullah.
Tommy, you've been brilliant. Tommy, you have been brilliant. You've listened to everybody. Please listen.
You cannot quote my text out of context and misquote my text. I am a scholar of Islam.
Will you tell me what it says? You read out. You tell me what Surah...
Tommy, Abdullah, can I say one thing? Gents, stop. Abdullah, have respect for me, please, and Tommy as well. Listen, guys, you are both articulate individuals. You've got your points and you want to get them across. Can I just say one thing? Tommy, you have been fantastic. You have listened to people, then you've reacted. So please, let Abdullah say something. Once he's finished, please come back then, Tommy. Abdullah.
Okay.
Thank you. And as I said, the Quran does not state this. The way he's interpreting and taking it out of context, you can do that with any book, any constitution, any book, even Harry Potter books, right? The Bible, you can take text and verses from it out of context to say that the Bible incites racial tension and violence and killing the Gentiles and so on and so forth. You can do that with the Torah. You can do that with the Hindu script and the Buddhist script. You can do that any text. And people have been doing that. Extremists from these various organizations and groups and faith, the individuals and minority groups and extremists, they have been doing that from a long time. It's not something new. So you cannot, Tony Robinson and others, use these verses out of context and say that the Muslim faith and the Muslim in general, 1.2 billion Muslim all over the world.
Let Tommy come back in now, Abdullah. Tommy.
Okay, basically, when you talk about taking out of context, yeah, the only Surah 5 verse 33. Let's just look at that. The only reward for those who make war against Allah and His Messenger and strive after corruption in the land will be they will be killed or crucified, have their hands and feet cut off from either side, etc., etc. Now, when you're talking about taking out of context, after an
I'll tell you what, Tommy. Ask Abdullah. Come back on that particular point.
Let me make my point.
All right, Tommy. I'll let you make your point on that one, please.
When you're talking about taking things out of context, the very next day after a high-profile killing in our country, Nick Clegg stood on our TV and he quoted Surah 5, verse 32. If you kill one man, you kill all of humanity, which it clearly states in the Quran. Yes? Now, when you talk about taking out of context, what he didn't read was the very next line.
Abdullah, just come back on that particular point. Tommy, I'm no scholar. Tommy, I wish I was a scholar. I wish I was a highly educated individual. But your point, you are quoting text from the Quran, and this is your interpretation. Abdullah, come back, and then Shakira, come back.
Interpretation. It's Michael Adabullah, can't say his name, the scumbag that allegedly killed Lee Rigby.
No, let's not call him anything, because there's a live trial. Abdullah, come back and answer what Tommy just put to you about...
As I said, any individual, any person who has hated for community, whether a Muslim community or a non-Muslim community, that person or group can use certain texts and verses, certain comments out of context and twist it. Certain people like Tommy Robinson and even from the Muslim faith have been doing that.
So what is the true meaning, Abdullah? Just for Tommy's sake, okay, what is the true meaning of what he just quoted there?
This is a particular context of time of war between two countries. right? It's not in our context in Tower Hamlets of the UK. It's completely absurd to quote these verses. And our scholars and people of common sense and sound mind have explained that. Now, you cannot, again, as I said, use these verses. As I said, I can do that. Anyone can do that with the Bible.
Okay, fantastic.
With the Talmud,
let's stay with that.
Any other text.
Thank you, Abdullah. Abdullah, Tommy, stay with me. Shakira, stay with me, because I want to come back to you as well. We've got Ruby in London, who we're going to go to as well. Guys, Tommy Robinson, EDL, planned march, Tower Hamlets this weekend. He says it's my democratic right. It is my colleagues' right as well. If we want to go through Tower Hamlets, we should. This is England. This is the UK. It's our democratic right. What do you guys say? 08 459 440 445. Text 81869. A very good morning to you. This is Naresh Puri on the BBC Asian Network, and it is 10:52 now. We've got quite a few callers on the subject of EDL marching through Tower Hamlets. So, Shakira, can I just ask you just to make a final point, please? Hi, Shakira. We've got a few moments, so if you could kindly make your final point, please.
Yeah, I just want to say, this demonstration is not going to achieve anything. It's basically, all I want to know from Tommy Robinson is what's he doing with this demonstration? What's his aim? All he's going to be doing is giving his message about anti-Islam to the general Muslim population.
Okay.
We don't believe people like Anjem Choudhury. So
okay.
Who's he fighting against?
Shakira, thank you. Thank you so much. Shakira from Essex, I appreciate your time. Let's go to Ruby in London. Ruby.
Hi.
How you doing, Ruby? Okay?
Yes, I'm okay. I need that on food while I was trying to text in. Hi.
I'll tell you what, Ruby, you're slightly faint. I'm going to get the guys to ring you straight back and we'll come back to you. Let's go to Brad in London. Brad, a very good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, yeah, not too bad, thank you. And yourself?
Very well, mate, very well. Brad, you tell me what you feel.
Well, I think they should be allowed to march. I have seen the dramatic change in the Islamification within London and surrounding areas. For example, my son wasn't allowed to go to the local nursery because they unofficially told me that he was too English and they only had room for a quota of Muslim children. So, things like that kind of made me open my eyes a little bit and see exactly what's going on. And
Brad, can I ask you, origin-wise, you are what?
White British.
Okay. So, Brad, tell me. Go on, carry on, please.
So, so I've been, obviously looking around doing a study and everything, and all these people that call Tommy Robinson a racist, how can he be racist when Islam's not a race? It's a religion, It's an ideology, in fact. All I've seen is the violence or the proposed violence where you've got groups like the Muslim Defence League who've blatantly put things out on Twitter saying that they call for everyone to enforce Insa Allah.
But Brad, what about the march through Tower Hamlets on the weekend? What do you feel should happen?
I think they should be allowed to march peacefully. All the protests I've seen on YouTube seem to be peaceful. The only problems I've seen is when you've got groups like the UAF who start throwing bottles and shouting abuse and it's like riling up a number of people within the EDL. So, I think they should be allowed to march. And when you've got groups like some of the Muslim extreme groups shouting that it's their area, that's where it starts crossing the line.
OK, Brad, listen, thank you very much indeed, and I do appreciate your phone call. Thank you, Brad. Let's go back to Ruby in London. Ruby, hi.
Hiya.
Hi,
sorry about that.
Listen, don't worry, Ruby. Thank you so much for being so patient. Ruby, tell me, what do you think?
Well, firstly, can I say that I agree with Shakira and Abdullah very much. But my question to Tommy was basically, why would you want to go into an area that it has majority Muslims? To me, it feels like you're trying to provoke them, especially when Muslims, they kind of come as a community and they're already very sore and upset about how we're targeted worldwide. And now you're going into an area where there's so many Muslims. To me, all it seems like is that you're trying to provoke them.
OK, right. Ruby, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this all to Tommy right at the end because we've got about 5 minutes. Listen, Ruby, thank you very much indeed, and I do appreciate your call. Let's go to Harry in Birmingham. Harry, a very good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
And you, quickly, my point is that Tommy knows what he's exactly doing. He's just an agitator. He's a smart lad. What he does is he gets his minions are all of low intelligence. He agitates them with this vocabulary, this use of words. He stands on the right side of the law, that line, and his plebs go right over the line and cause mass havoc in these societies, and not only when they've gone, but afterwards, groups of violence.
Okay.
And he winds them up. He knows him and Chowdhury are on the same side of the same coin. They're professional agitators. They don't get convicted, but he winds up the idiots behind him.
Right, I'm going to put that to him at the end. Harry from Birmingham, thank you very much. Thank you for sparing the time to give me a ring. I appreciate that. Let's go to Ishmael in Leicester. Ishmael, a very good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
You're doing all right there, mate.
I'm good, thank you, Ishmael. Ishmael, we've got about 4 minutes, so please, if you
my
could...
question to Tony Robinson is, English Defence League, it doesn't make no sense. It's all about Muppet Company, the EDL. Are the English under attack? Are the English under attack by the Muslims? No, they're not under attack, nothing. Where is he getting all this rubbish from? Tony Blair went to Middle East as a peace processor, and look all of that Arab spin started. Look at you, why are you letting this dog loose on the road in Brooklyn?
Because he hasn't... Ishmael, you're a very intelligent, articulate man, and the thing is that Tommy hasn't, used words like that about other callers, so please, Ishmael, you're an intelligent man, so just make your point about the EDL marching through Tower Hamlets, yes or no?
Pardon?
Sorry, do you think the EDL should be allowed, or should they be banned from...
He shouldn't be allowed to be marching anywhere in the world, anywhere, because it's a hatred company there, and you can see it. They hate Muslims, and they tell you blatantly, and you're letting them on your radio show. It's an insult to the Muslims.
Okay, Ishmael from Leicester, thank you very much indeed. Tommy, I'm going to give you the last minute, but Abdullah, last point, very quick point, please, Abdullah.
I believe in democracy, that anyone has the right to protest, in a peaceful demonstration to view their political concerns. Now, we have to look at the evidence and the facts. The EDL, Tommy Robinson, notoriously they've been marching in different parts of the UK community, and they've been inciting racial tension. They've been violent. They've been, burning mosques, and that's the allegation.
So you're against that?
I'm completely against, because, as I said at the beginning, Tony Robinson himself, when he came, the last time he came to Tower Hamlets, he mentioned, we categorically stated that, he
very quickly
will come back again and attack the Muslim community of Tower Hamlets.
Okay.
Now, he's trying to hide behind freedom of assembly and democracy when he's trying to incite racial tension.
You do not want him there. Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you. Hussein, you've got 20 seconds. Hussein from the Midlands. 20 seconds.
You don't represent the interests of Christianity, Tommy, mate. If you go and look in the Bible says under Hebrews 9:20, this is the blood of the testament which God has enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry, and almost all things are by the law purged with blood.
Hussein...
Without shedding of blood is no remission. Are you going to ban the Bible now, mate? Are you going to ban the testament?
Tommy, last 35 seconds, please. Tommy Robinson.
Abdullah only tells the truth by accident, by the sounds of it, because he keeps on going on about EDL blowing up mosques. We've never blown up a mosque. If I opposed and started speaking out against Scientology, would there be an uproar like this? What you have to remember is Islam is an ideology. It's an ideology that is there for criticism, and it deserves criticism. And for us to dislike Islam does not mean we hate individual Muslims.
10 seconds, Tommy.
I feel that many Muslims are the first victims of Islam. Anjem Chowdhury's children are victims. Saiful Islam's children are victims. All these people are victims, and no one's doing nothing about it.
Tommy Robinson.
Combat it, and we will.
Tommy, listen, thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate you coming on the BBC Asian Network.